Good morning, afternoon, evening, ladies and gentlemen. Future Knight Eric here, back with another deck profile. Today we will be covering one of my all-time favorites, a classic in Yu-Gi-Oh, you could say, Burning Abyss. And the funny part is, this Burning Abyss deck profile is probably the most pure BA deck profile I will ever have on my channel. I really came into BA at a very strange point in its life cycle, where, you know, Graph and Sur were at one, and it was being used more as an engine, an OTK facilitator. So this is actually the first time I've got to play BA in its purest form, you could say. And I was very happy with it. I took it to my locals today, which ended up being a 5-round locals, 17 people, great turnout. Obviously we were super safe because of COVID and whatnot, wearing masks, sanitizing after each round, social distancing, only 2 people sitting at a table at a time, so that is always good. And yeah, my rounds went quite smoothly. Round 1 I went up against Goki, quite an easy matchup. Biggest standout I would say was playing through 2 Fog Blades and a Appaloosa for 3, but yeah, relatively easy matchup, not much to speak on there. Goki doing Goki things. Round 2 was against my good friend Volt. He was playing Eldritch, Numeron Eldritch with the Dragoon package and just a boatload of hand traps. Disgusting deck. He Zexaled me in game 1. I actually managed to stall long enough to get quite a nice comeback, but I had desired twice, so my deck was running thin and I eventually ran out of resources, and then he hard drew, of course, the Red Eyes Fusion. And then in game 2 I set up my board. It was just too oppressive, he couldn't play through it. I won that game. And in game 3 he actually went first, hard drew the Red Eyes Fusion, summoned Dragoons and passed. Now usually that's enough, but it was in game 3. Time was very close to ending. I ended up comboing a little bit through the Dragoons, but I couldn't make a Zeus, and I also couldn't poke for any damage, which was quite disappointing. But time was called during my end phase when I had a Scarm Search, and then obviously after he drew draw phase, as soon as that ended, it was game. And he had paid 800 using the Eldritch card that adds the Golden Lord, so he had already taken some life points. Round 3 was against my good friend Yasha, playing VW. It was absolutely insane. Very powerful deck. I actually played some spice in the side deck, which I'll get to and speak about when we get there. And yeah, the games were quite tough, back and forth. Round 1 he bricked quite badly, and I just managed to establish a very oppressive board. Game 2 he made double calamities with the trap, impossible to play through pretty much. And then game 3 is when the spice came in, which I'll speak about later. Round 4 was against Michael, my only loss of the day. It was disgusting. He 2-0'd me playing dinos, but to be fair, I'd banished both of my Sirs off of Desires, and then both games, we only played 2 games because he 2-0'd me. Both games I drew 5 cards, 1 Desires in each of these hands, and the rest are BA monsters. But no Graph, no Sir, no good ones, just random BAs. I Desired in my first game, drew into 2 more Desires, and then in game 2 I drew into another BA name, another Libic. I had 2 Libics in hand, and I drew into a Lancia. The Lancia helped, but it didn't help enough for me to set up a board. The cards I had in my hand, I couldn't create a board that could stop what he had already. But yeah, so that was round 4, and then round 5 was against Chad playing Cyber Dragons. I went first game 1 and he Lightning Stormed my back row. You'll see this deck does play some trap cards, but it's a bit of a mixture between the trap and the hand trap version. So yeah, he Lightning Stormed my back row, but he couldn't do much else after that, and then I went for the OTK. And then in game 2 I went first. He made me go first again, and he OTK'd me using like Verte, Machine Dupe on a Hertz, I believe. Just crazy shenanigans that I couldn't stop. And then game 3 I actually opted for him to go first, and I drew the nuts. I drew like 3 hand traps, a Kaiju and a Tour Guide. He just passed It didn't establish anything, and I could just combo off. I think I ended up only just making a Zeus because he Skullmeistered my Graph, which, you know, it is what it is. But from there he just couldn't play, so I ended up taking it. And the reason I came first was actually because of tiebreakers. Michael, who was undefeated in the last round, went up against Yasha and then lost. But because I had beaten Yasha prior, I had better tiebreakers than Yasha, so I ended up coming first. So technically not undefeated, unfortunately, but I definitely will do work on the side for the Dino matchup, because it is a very, very rough matchup. So yeah, let's just get into the deck profile. Sorry for that long intro. I just wanted to speak on my matchups. So starting it off, obviously you play 3 Best Girl. She's absolutely insane. Quite a strange card in this deck though, just because the format is so hand trap heavy. But what I end up doing is I'll end up keeping her for the 3rd turn, or what I'll do is I'll activate a Desires, and if they ash the Desires, then I know the tour guide is safe, because Imperm and Effect Veiler are not being played that much this format. She's an insane card. By herself, she ends up with your IP and your Beatrice going first. Going second, she can actually facilitate a OTK by herself if you have another BA monster in hand. So you can make Borrow Sword, excuse me, as well as Beatrice, which is often game. But yeah, she's just absolutely insane. And I'm sorry, I do have to flex. As you can see, I've got the play set of the Ulti tour guides. Very, very good card. Definitely glad that this is back at 3. We're also playing not 1, not 2, but 3 Rhino. A lot of people only opt to play 2 in the hand trap style deck and 3 in the trap version. I opted to go with 3 because him with another BA name is full combo anyway, so it just made sense to play 3 of them. Also, he's very, very good in the grind game, drawing him and having a BA card in hand that you couldn't otherwise summon because you've got something else. It just makes it that you can go into, you know, a rank 3 or link 2, and you can just link climb, and then you can get the send, so it ends up working out quite well. Then for the BA cards, we're playing 3 Scam. While playing 3, I was playing 2 originally, but I decided to bump it up to 3 just because that Scam Search tour guide in the end phase for the follow-up plays is absolutely mad. Going first board with your Beatrice and your IP, or just Beatrice pass, which a lot of people were laughing at me today, making Beatrice and maybe a trap and pass, but it's really strong, guys. I don't know why, but it is. But yeah, the search off of this is absolutely insane. Facilitates so many OTKs and just extensions, making Zeuses. So you have to play the 3. Just getting a milling one of these off of your Dante mill is just so satisfying. Obviously we're playing 3 of the other normal summon slash best boy. 3 Graph. He's the one that summons from deck. Just there's not much to say about him. He's the best. He was at 1, now he was at 2, and now he's back at 3. So glad for that. Now I am playing, which might be controversial in the group, I'm only playing 2 Sir. I am going to bump this up to 3, especially after today banishing both of them off of Desires. The reason I only play 2 though is because you hardly ever want to mold this, but I've started to notice you actually do, because it's kind of weird. If you mold this, you can sort of end on the exact same board using the cards you have, as long as there's a Libic somewhere involved and you have an extender in hand. So it often means you can end on an IP, a Beatrice, and maybe even sometimes an extra BA monster that was summoned off of Libic and, you know, won't kill itself because its effects are negated. But I don't know, I'm liking this at 2 for now, but I think bumping it up to 3 is definitely necessary. I'm not sure why I'd cut. The deck is at 41 at the moment, just because I couldn't figure out what to cut from my current list. But yeah, this definitely should go to 3. Speaking of the boy, Libic, this I'm so glad I bumped up to 2. I was originally playing 1, but the fact that it can just summon an extra body from your hand to help you extend, and the fact that the effects of that monster are negated means your Burning Abyss monsters don't just kill themselves, which is so important to help link climb into your Borrow Sword, your Borrow Load, you know, whatever you need. So definitely, I would definitely play this at 2. 3 maybe a little bit too much, but 1 is, you're not getting the full utility out of the card. So definitely would say play at 2. Then for my tech cards, 1 Alec, 1 Skullcap. I'm thinking of making it 2 Alec. There was many times when I used up all 3 Farfas, and the Alec was like in my hand also used up, and it felt like if I had that 1 extra, I could have stopped, you know, that 1 more thing. The Skullcap does come up against those back row decks, but unfortunately today I didn't play much back row decks. So, but in theory it's great, and it's just another name. At the end of the day, these ones you're never using in turn 1, so they like really free extenders, and that's kind of the same logic with 3 Farfa. The reason we play the 3 Farfa is because in turn 1 it doesn't matter, you can just summon it because you're never going to be banishing anything in turn 1. So this is literally the most free extender with your Graph. So like if you have Graph or Rhino, it's normal summon them and then special this. There's no drawback like there is with Skarm or with Libic, where you might want to use their effect later in your turn 1 combo. So yeah, Farfa is definitely a must-have at 3. So that's all the BA stuff. Now for the hand trap bit. So there's quite a few. So we play 3 Ash. Have to staple. This stops a lot of the meta stuff right now. Oftentimes you'll need another hand traps, but if their hands are bad enough, then this is enough. We play 2 Bull, which I'm very disappointed in, really. They did not perform today at all. They stopped 1 or 2 things, but most of the players could just play through it. However, what really did stand out was Skullmaster. This card is insane. So the idea is I'm probably going to cut the Ghost Spells and put in a 3rd Meister and maybe a 3rd Crow. I'm not too sure on that. The Crow also came in clutch today, banishing Golden Lords, banishing like a Cyber Dragon core that was in the Cyber Dragon's graveyard, so he couldn't resolve Cyber Repair Plant, banishing some of the Drytron stuff so that they can't resolve that. It's very, very good. So I don't know, Ghost Spell, very lackluster for me, to be honest with you. And then for the final hand trap, I guess it's more of a trap, but I am playing the 3 Imperm. Yes, I know it's not that great, this format, but against rogue decks, this just wins. Like, against rogue decks, you know, I mean, like zombies, they normal summon you zombie, you Imperm, they go, oh, okay, pass. You know, like, there's just random matchups where Imperm is better than other hand traps. And I didn't want to commit main deck space to Drolls and to like Nibirus or Lanciers, because those are only good against very particular matchups. So I decided to go with the Imperms. Also, at the end of the day, it's a card you can set and then activate, also stopping potentially a spell, a trap, anything like that. So that was the mindset behind it. But yeah, that's it for the hand traps. I think we're playing 12. Yeah, we're playing 12 hand traps, so very high % chance of drawing at least 1, which is what I wanted. But yeah, like I said, very disappointed with the Ghost Spells today. But we'll have to see how she does in the future. Then spells, it's just the 3 Desires. This card is broken. If they don't ash this, you draw enough card advantage that you can potentially play through hand traps. If they do stop this and you've got a Tour Guide in hand, it's also GG. So I mean, this card is just, it's insane. Obviously we don't play Extravagance because we need our extra deck desperately, but yeah, you can't play this deck without Desires. I don't think so, not in 2021. Then finally, for the trap portion, we're playing the 3 Strike. I think everybody expected that, but we're also playing the 2 IDPs, Ice Dragon Prisons. This card is just too good not to play, and that was kind of the conflict I was having when I saw the hand trap version of this deck that topped the 3v3's LCS that passed, I think, this last week. It's so strong, but at the same time, there's some traps that are just worth playing, and I think this is definitely one of them. If I could, I would try and get a hold of a 3rd, play 3 and 3. That would be very, very nice, actually. But for now, we're just playing the 3 and the 2. I didn't want to play Trap Trick because Desires, you banish 1, and then, okay, cool, the other one's dead. So I just ended up playing the 2. And that was my 41 card main deck. Moving on to the extra deck. So this is probably what came in most clutch. This card single-handedly won me, I think, 4 games today. It was insane. It also won me a match today, which is just insane. I would probably play 2. I can't afford to right now. 1 is definitely good, and then obviously we're playing the Downer Magician and the Nightmare Shark, just to, you know, XYZ climb, not link climb anymore, into the Zeus. But he's just insane. He's such a good card. Obviously the Nightmare Shark attack directly by its effect. It's 2000, which is quite mad, and then you can go into the Downage because it's in main phase 2, and then into your Zeus. Then for the BA portion, we're playing Beatrice, best card, waifu. Double Dante, it came up a lot today. The third one never did, so I'm quite happy with that. And then we played Purple Dante. This card is mad. This card's insane. It came up so many times today. Everybody was like destroying Beatrice, and I was just like, okay, summon Purple Gay Dante. I mean, look at him. He's just fabulous. And then, you know, draw a card, shuffle a card back. He's insane. Obviously Dante being probably the best card in the extra deck, and then Beatrice. And I'm playing the OG Beatrice just because I like, you know, that all the extra deck Burning Abyss stuff is secret, so that's nice. But yeah, you have to play those. You don't have to play Purple Dante. I just like it because people do, as I've just said, destroy him for no reason. For link 4s, we're playing Borrel Sword, Borrel Load, and Appaloosa. The Appaloosa is for when you do the IP Beatrice play. You'll usually end up with a Unicorn and a Dante, and then a Tour Guide in hand. And what you can then do is you can, at the beginning of your turn, you can go into the Appaloosa, so you can play around Nibiru and hand traps, and then you can normal as Tour Guide, and then you can end up, like, I think with the Zeus, and depending on like your Libic and your Libic extender and also your Mills of Dante, you can end on a sword with a Dante, or you can end on a Zeus with a potential Scarm Search. It's all very dependent on RNG and your Mills, but I do think this is a staple. I might switch out the Borrow Load for the Link 5 mommy that's coming out of Blazing Vortex. She's just awesome. I love her art more than anything. Just seeing her in the extra deck will make me happy, and this actually didn't come up today. This, however, won me so many matches. I love this card. This card and I have a history. I will never cut this from combo decks ever. Unicorn, like I said. Cherubini, this card is not good turn 1 unless you have so many extenders, it's ridiculous, but late game this card becomes clutch. And the fact the attack boost actually came up today against Yasha, I could have ended on an Appaloosa and a Zeus, or I could have gone for the Borrow Sword and a Scarm that had been buffed by 1/6 by the Sir. So it ended up being, I think it's 1 Sir's 1/6. Was he 1/4? Let me just have a quick look. Yeah, he's 1/6. So I buffed the Scarm with the Sir's attack points, and I had the Scarm for 2/2 and the Borrow Sword, which is exactly enough to kill, you know, your opponent if he's got no monsters, which he did. So this card is so cool. IP for your plays, Phoenix, and then this was a Cerberus, but I came to realize that sometimes you need a Link to Away, and you actually need the arrows, and you need the random discard. Like sometimes they won't have a spell or trap to pop off your nightmares, so you'll need just a discard outlet. And yeah, I ended up putting him in. Didn't see him today, but in theory it's really good. Side deck is still a work in progress. Like I'm definitely bumping this up to 3. The Dino matchup is so rough. These still conflicted on. Against certain matchups it's really good, but like against Dinos they just make the negate before the 5th. VW, you know, like they can play through it sometimes. Drytron, you know, they can set up the vanities, or they get the Herald in hand before you can drop it. So I'm feeling very iffy about the Nibiru's, so I'm thinking of cutting them entirely. Then we're also playing 2 kaijus. I live and breathe and die by kaijus. I think these guys are insane. They're such good outs. So I'm actually thinking of cutting the 2 nibs and putting in a 3rd kaiju and a 2nd lancier. The kaiju came up once or twice today, nothing too crazy. Just getting rid of the calamities on VW, which is strong because it means you can play the next turn. But yeah, kaijus, I don't know, man. I live and breathe by kaijus. 2 droll. Also might bump up to 3. Didn't use it or see it today much. I know it's really good against dinos, and then Drytron literally lose to this card. So I am thinking of probably bumping this up to 3. Pankatops, I had it today, and the only time I drew it, my opponent didn't summon any monsters. So it didn't really matter. But yeah, he's also insane. And then the MVP card against Yasha, Mischief of the Gnomes. Obviously this also comes from the 3v3 LCS list that made top 8. This card is so good. I sent it against Yasha, banished it, and he just passed. It was very, very, very strong. So just a 1 of, maybe a 2 of, because if you mill it off Dante, you can send something else with your Beatrice, maybe a Scam for follow-up play. But yeah, this card is insane. Then I played very strange, 1 of each back row spell card. The reason being is I actually couldn't decide between these 2, so I was like, well, why not play 1 of each? And then Hoppy's Feather Duster, against certain matchups, it just wins. You just blow up like 5 back row and then they just lose. So I had to play that, and then I kept on debating between these 2 because of the life points, because of time. The discard, is it too much? In BA, technically the discard is good, but like against VW, if you're discarding 1 card and you're going -1 to Poppy's Trap, which is, you don't get that value. And also if they set another card, then you pop it, okay, it banishes to search or do something else, which isn't ideal. So I ended up just playing those 3. I'm probably just going to play 2 Cosmics or 3 Cosmics, to be honest with you. But for now, this this was a little experiment. It wasn't too bad. I never saw them because I never sided them in. I think I sided them in against Chad. That was just because I know like Cyber Dragon and some random decks like that, they like to just put in random back row like strikes and stuff. But I never saw it, so it didn't really matter. And then finally, these 2 cards, the last 2 cards, were the biggest debate I've ever had with myself. I ended up playing 2-Dimensional Barrier, and the other choices I had was Torrential Tribute or Compulsory Evacuation Device. And the reason I went with Barrier was because it gave the biggest like floodgate-esque type trap that isn't a continuous trap. Yes, Torrential is good, but you're blowing up your own cards. So yes, you make your Unicorn with your IP, that can't be destroyed, but then you're blowing up your Dante. So you see, it kind of becomes this weird interaction where you then have to catch up advantage, where if you have that Dante on board already, you've already got some advantage. So I ended up settling with Dimensional Barrier. I never saw it. I didn't side it in, I don't think. I think I sided it in against Yasha and when I went first, but I didn't see it. But in theory, it's a great card. And I think I'm going to keep it in for now. Just because it's so good against, the XYZ decks, Ritual decks, Synchro decks. So definitely an insane card. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that is the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed it. I know a lot of the guys and girls on the BA Facebook group have been looking forward to seeing this. I'm so happy to be playing BA again. I'm not gonna lie, it's been a very long time. I played it for the longest time and I'm back into it, and I'm very happy with how the build is looking. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the deck profile. I will probably see you soon with another sponsored video, but yeah, thanks for stopping by, and we will see you in the next one.